10 banned moves and surprising UFC rules. You might not know. The UFC is the pinnacle of mixed martial arts, where the best fighters on the planet battle it out in the octagon. But while it may seem like a no-holds-barred contest, there are strict rules that every fighter must follow. Some of these banned moves make perfect sense, while others may surprise even hardcore fans. Let's dive into 10 illegal moves in the UFC and a few strange rules that have led to some controversial moments inside the cage. Number 1. Strikes to the back of the head, rabbit punches. Ever heard of the term rabbit punch? It refers to strikes to the back of the head, one of the most dangerous areas to be hit. A clean shot to this region can cause severe brain injuries, leading to concussions, spinal damage, or even worse. That's why the UFC enforces strict rules against these blows. Referees are usually quick to warn fighters, but if a strike to the back of the head is repeated or intentional, they can deduct points or even stop the fight altogether. Number 2. 12 to 6 elbows, straight down elbows. One of the most infamous banned strikes in the UFC is the 12 to 6 elbow, an elbow strike that comes straight down like the hands of a clock, moving from 12 to 6. Why is it illegal? Strangely enough, this rule originates from early concerns over martial artists breaking bricks and boards with downward elbows in demonstrations. The commission overseeing MMA thought such moves were too dangerous, even though other elbow strikes, like from different angles, remain legal. Many fighters and fans argue that the rule makes no sense, but it remains a strict part of the rule book. Number 3. Kicks and knees to a grounded opponent. You might have seen fighters touch the mat with a fingertip when in danger. This is because of the grounded opponent rule. A fighter is considered grounded if they have a knee, hand, or any body part, besides their feet, touching the ground. Once grounded, their opponent is not allowed to throw kicks or knees to the head. This rule is meant to prevent devastating concussions, but it has led to controversy. Some fighters manipulate the rule by quickly touching the ground to avoid getting kicked, frustrating both opponents and fans. 4. Grabbing the fence. Grabbing the cage might seem like a small thing, but in reality, it can change the entire course of a fight. Holding the fence prevents takedowns and allows fighters to maintain an unfair advantage. That's why referees enforce this rule strictly. Fighters are usually warned, but if they continue grabbing the fence, they can have points deducted or even be placed in a disadvantageous position. 5. Small joint manipulation, finger, toe grabs. MMA may be brutal, but there are still limits. Fighters are not allowed to grab and break fingers or toes. Unlike arm bars or leg locks, which target large joints, fingers and toes are much easier to snap, making them illegal targets. Fighters are allowed to grip an opponent's hand, but they cannot isolate a single finger or toe to force a submission. 6. Fish hooking and eye gouging. Some moves are considered so dirty that they can lead to an immediate disqualification. Fish hooking, pulling on an opponent's mouth or cheek with a finger, and eye gouging fall into this category. Both moves can cause serious injuries. Eye gouges have even ended careers. Just ask Daniel Cormier, who suffered lasting eye damage due to accidental pokes in his fights with Stipe Miocic. Referees warn fighters about accidental eye pokes, but repeated offenses can lead to penalties or even disqualifications. 7. Spiking an opponent on their head. MMA allows brutal slams, but there's one big exception. Fighters cannot deliberately spike their opponent's head on the mat. This means no WWE-style pile drivers. However, if a fighter picks up an opponent for a slam and lets go before impact, like Rampage Jackson's famous powerbomb KO, it's still legal. This rule is designed to prevent neck and spinal injuries, which can be career-ending or even life-threatening. 8. Strikes to the throat. No throat chops, punches, or grabs. This is another strict rule in the UFC. However, there's an exception. If a fighter aims for the chin and accidentally lands on the throat, it's considered legal. Throat strikes can cut off breathing and cause serious damage, making them one of the more dangerous illegal moves. 9. Throwing an opponent out of the cage. Believe it or not, the UFC has an official rule against throwing opponents out of the cage. While the octagon is designed to prevent this from happening, the rule exists just in case. Fighters cannot try to toss their opponent over the fence in a WWE-style move. 10. Using Vaseline or grease on the body. Before a fight, cut men apply Vaseline to a fighter's face to reduce the risk of cuts. However, greasing up the body is strictly illegal. This rule was enforced after a controversial incident involving Georges St-Pierre and BJ Penn. Penn's team accused GSP of applying excess Vaseline to his body, making him too slippery to grapple with. Since then, referees closely monitor cornermen to prevent any illegal greasing. Besides banned moves, the UFC also has some bizarre rules that you might not expect. No attacking during the referee's break. Even if your opponent is faking an injury, you cannot attack once the referee calls a pause. No talking back to the referee. Fighters who argue too much with referees can actually be disqualified. No timidity, running away, stalling, or refusing to engage can result in warnings or even disqualification. MMA may be one of the most intense and unforgiving sports, but it still has rules to protect fighters. Some banned moves like eye gouging and rabbit punches make perfect sense, while others, like the 12-6 elbow rule, remain controversial. The next time you watch a UFC fight, keep an eye out for these rules in action. You might even see a fighter try to push the limits.